YouTube family, what's good with you? It's your boy 2A in LA, and as always, fam, anything I say in this episode, prior episodes, and future episodes is just my personal opinion. Don't take it as fact. Don't take it as law. Always do your own homework and come up with your own conclusions. Right about now, fam, I should go ahead and tap that like button for your boy. If you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. Come on in. You can join the congregation by smashing that subscribe button and requesting all post notifications. And if you are an existing supporter of this channel, bam! I appreciate you more than you can possibly imagine. You are the reason this channel is anything. Alright fam, if you haven't seen my initial video of the Cosaint Arms Kovert collaboration 3.5 inch 2011, definitely go back and check that out. But here we're now going to jump into the full review. And look fam, before we do that, just let you peruse it again, fam. This gun is drop dead sexy, fam. Look. Being drop dead sexy is not a requirement for a great review, but it helps. Like it or not, fam, we all like our guns to look good, right? We care much more about how they shoot, how accurate they are, reliable, all that, right? But we want them to look good too. And look, Cosaint fit the bill. I collaborated with my guys at Kovert. We went back and tweaked and added the gold accents to it, and this gun is just stunning, fam, stunning. But as I mentioned in my initial impressions video, I have been craving a sub 4-inch 2011 that I could carry. There are not that many out there. You've got the Staccato C2, which is 3.9 inch, which I have redone by Monsoon Tactical. That was kind of my go-to 2011 carry, but that's a thick girl, and you know I like them thick. I'm not, stop. But no, I didn't. I wanted something that was a little bit more compact, something that was a little bit easier to carry, something that was a little bit lighter weight. And I had taken the Staccato CS for a spin, and it was cool. I didn't love it though. And so I really had my eyes on that Wilson Combat 3.25. I just hadn't gotten around to picking one up. And maybe November sometime last year, or October sometime last year, Cosaint comes out with 3 new prototype guns, a 5-inch, a 4.6 inch, or a 4.25, I think, and a 3.5-inch ported. And I was like, oh, this is what I need. This is what I need in my life. And I went out, shot it, did the review. I was blown away. I had to have it. And so, yeah, fam, look. It comes in looking phenomenal. But like I said, looks are one thing. We got to talk about how this bad boy shoots. So look, let's jump into the review. All right, fam, if you've never seen a 2A in LA review, I'm just going to keep it real simple. 0, worst possible score, hot garbage. 100, the best possible score in the history of the world. I've never had a 0. I've never had 100. We can always hold out hope. A 50 is right down the middle. 50 to 60, right down the middle. Think about, you know, a Glock 17 Gen 5. Gonna go bang every time. Very, very accurate, but just kind of no feels, no thrills, kind of feature less, right? If you got something 60 to 70, you've got something that's one deviation above the norm. Maybe it has a feature or two that you don't see with kind of the middle of the road guns. If you got something kind of 70 to 80, that gun has a few different features that separate it from the crowd. If you got something kind of 80 to 90, okay, now you're cooking with gas. Now you're talking about kind of best in class guns, particularly if it's kind of 85 to 89. If you got something 90 and above, that's grail gun status. All right, fam, let's jump into the review. First up, fit and finish. Look, fam, this gun is really, really well done. The tolerances are really, really tight. Like, barrel fitment is top notch. Slide to frame fit is butter. Grip to frame fit is outstanding. Look, fam, they just did a really, really good job. I mean, very smooth. There's no hitch in the slide. A lot of times when you get these guns, whether it's because of the coating or whatever the case may be, it takes a while to kind of work them in and break them in. A lot of times you'll have like a sticky kind of safety. None of that is present here. It's all very, very well done. For fit and finish, we're going to give it a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, reliability. Look, I put this gun through a lot. And reason being, more so than I would a typical gun that I'm reviewing. And it's because my intent for this gun was to be my everyday concealed carry. That's why I bought it. That's why I was looking for it. I think most people are going to, if you're buying a 3.5 inch, that's the goal, right? I don't think nobody's buying a 3.5 inch to compete with, right? I don't think a lot of people are looking to do a 3.5 inch for home defense. You're going to get a 4 1/4 or to a full size for that. And so if you buy a 3.5 inch, you're buying it because you want to carry it, right? And so having a gun that's reliable was probably the most important thing to me. So I ran a lot of different type of ammunition through this gun. Normally I'm running my 124 grain FMG through these guns when I do testing, but I ran a variety of different defensive ammunition through the gun, as well as my more traditional range ammo, and it gobbled it up. Said, "Thank you, brother, can I have another?" And I was very impressed with the reliability of the gun. I had to be. That would be the only way that I would carry it. So reliability, we're going to give it a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, durability. Look, fam, the gun is well made. I don't know what to tell you. The componentry that Cosaint is putting into the gun is top notch. All metal gun, machine, DLC coated, except for the custom parts, which you see here in gold, which are PVD coated, which is also a great coating. And the machining is just really well done. The manufacturing is really well done. This is a gun, I think if you take care of it, it's going to take care of you. I think it's going to be very durable. Again, it means a lot more to me when I'm talking about a gun that I'm planning on carrying every day, a gun that I'm planning on, because I carry it every day, I'm going to shoot it way more often than my other pistols. So we'll come back. We probably got around 1,500 rounds or so through the gun at this point, and I see no signs of wear and tear on the gun thus far. We'll come back when that round count gets up to 5, 6, 7, 8,000 rounds and do kind of a re-review and update review so I can give you the skinny at that point. But right now, durability, we're going to give it a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam, next up, trigger. Look, it's an Atlas trigger. You guys know I love Atlas triggers. No take up. You're at the wall. Clear defined wall. Crisp, clean break. Reset. I'll go out ahead and I'll put the trigger pull up there. It's a little heavier trigger pull than what you'll see on a lot of my Atlas guns, but that's great for me. Look, I'm custom. I've grown accustomed, fam. You know how they say, for a duty gun, you don't want a light trigger. I think there's a lot of truth to that, but I also think it depends on what you're accustomed to training with. Mostly all of my pistols have a sub 2-pound trigger. So I've become very accustomed to shooting and being disciplined with a lighter trigger. If you're accustomed to like shooting a stock Glock trigger and you go to something like this, you're gonna be like, oh, I can't do it. But if you're accustomed shooting like high-end competition pistols with really, really good triggers, Atlas triggers, Infinity triggers, Red Dirt triggers, etc., and you get something like this, it's right in line. And the fact that it's a little bit heavier is probably perfect for me. And you know, you have to decide that for yourself, but I love the trigger. For trigger, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a 14 out of a possible 15. All right, fam. Next up, ergonomics. How does it feel in the hands? Again, fam, when you're talking about making a gun your carry gun, that how it feels, these little details mean way more. They mean way more to you. And I gotta say, fam, it feels for a little 3.5. That's the thing. It's a little 3.5 inch barrel. For a little 3.5, it feels really, really good. It is incredibly, surprisingly well balanced. And the grip feels phenomenal. Texturing is great. Gritty enough so you're not, even with sweaty hands and inclement weather, you're not going to be losing your grip, but not so gritty where if you're carrying an appendix, it's going to be scratching you to death. I gotta say, fam, I'm really, really digging the ergos on the gun. I also added a little tactical mag well here, which you don't see on a lot of the Cosaint guns. I should also mention that this is a Miller Precision grip. Shout out to my guys at Miller. I just think aesthetically the gun and the grip are great. They feel great in the hands. Yeah, fam, I loving the ergos. For ergonomics, for a little 3.5, we're going to give it an 8 out of 10. And I gotta say, for such a small, tiny gun, hard to get much higher than an 8 out of 10 for ergonomics. Next up, accuracy. Look, fam, bull barrel, like I said, really well weighted. I'll put some footage of me shooting a grouping up there from about 15 yards out. Look, fam, for a 3.5, look, I'm not expecting this to shoot like an Atlas Erebus. I'm not expecting this to shoot like a Rafferty Lucky Devil or All Steel Lucky Devil or like my Venom Custom. But for a 3.5 carry, man, very, very accurate, very tight groups. For accuracy, we're going to go ahead and give it an 8 out of a possible 10. All right, fam. Next up, we're going to put these two categories together as we often do. Aftermarket support and maintenance and upkeep. Look, it's a 2011. You gotta keep them clean. It is what it is. Every 1,000 rounds or so, break it down, clean it a little bit, or do a little dust up after you shoot it, and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. Keep it oiled. You're gonna be good to go. Relative to aftermarket support, fam, the 2011 market is just exploding. There's a ton of aftermarket support out there. I am very close to being, I have kind of a standard 4 out of 5 for aftermarket support for 2011s because it's not to the point where it's Glock, right? It's not to the point where it's an AR-15 platform, but it's getting there. It's getting there. For right now, we're going to leave it where we are. 4 out of 5 for aftermarket support. 4 out of 5 for maintenance and upkeep. All right, fam. Next up, affordability. So look, when I think about the sub 4-inch 2011 guns that are on the market, like I said, there's that 3.25, 3.5 Wilson Combat that's right in the 3,000 to kind of 3,500 range. You've got the Staccato CS that's also kind of like that $2,500 to $3,000 range. I'd say, in my opinion, this gun is vastly superior to both of those guns in terms of componentry, machining, balance, shooting experience. I think it's better. it's also at a little higher price point. So I'll go ahead and I'll put the MSRP up there. It's a little bit on the high end. I think I think Cosaint and Kovert did it right, because I think people are going to want to carry this gun. And if you got any more than where it is now, people are going to say, I'm not going to carry it. I mean, if I look at my Atlas EOS, for instance, like if I want, now this is a bigger gun. You can see the size difference between a 4 1/4 and a 3 1/2 when they're next to each other, right? But the EOS is kind of a thin framed 2011. It's made for carry, but it's also $6,500. I think, I don't know, if you get into a self-defense shooting incident, you want something that you can shoot accurately. You want something that you can shoot fast to end a threat, and all of that. But I don't think you want to cry if you get into a self-defense situation and your gun is confiscated, which it 100% will be, even if there's no fault to you, and good luck getting it back. So my feelings would certainly be hurt if this gun got taken away from me. But like I said, I don't think you can get much more expensive. I think if it's any more expensive, people just wouldn't get it for that reason. So I think it's properly priced. I think it should be right around that $4K range, and that's where it is for all metal gun. You know, all machine parts, well constructed, well machined, great coating, but in a small package. So for affordability though, still not cheap. We're gonna give it a 2 out of 5. All right, fam, last but not least, flex. Is Instagram gonna go crazy? Or your boy's gonna be like, damn, 100%. Fam, I'm gonna just let you, what? Yeah. One of the best concealed carry pistols out there in terms of aesthetics, in my opinion. I think Cosaint killed it. And when you add, I tell you what, when you take Cosaint and Kovert, put them together, and then you add a little 2A NLA stilo to it, we're gonna kill the game. Every time, every time. Flex points, 4 out of a possible 5 points for flex. All right, fam, if you add all that up, you get a whopping 86 out of a possible 100 points for the Cosaint X Kovert 3.5-inch 2011, fam. I got this, I told you. If you're between that 85 and that 89 score area, you're kind of in best in class. The CS was in the low 80s. The Staccato CS was in the low 80s. That Wilson Combat EDC X9 was in the low 80s. And you see like the difference in this gun is probably about 5 points or so. And it's because, like I said, all metal gun, great componentry, great machining, incredibly accurate, gonna be durable, great balance. Look, I got 0 complaints. For a 3.5-inch gun, I don't know if you can do better. I'd like to see somebody try. I know Infinity has, I think, a 3 1/4 or 3.5 that they have coming out that's in their collection. Yeah, but I'm just keeping it 100. I'm not gonna carry a $9,000 gun. Not gonna do it. Just not gonna do it. Carrying a $4,000 gun is also borderline insanity. I mean, people look at me crazy for carrying my C2, which is like a $2,500, $3,000 gun. So, yeah, carrying a $9,000, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And so, but I am planning on carrying this. I'm gonna add it to my CCW license. Yeah, fam, 86 out of a possible 100 for the Cosaint X Kovert 3.5-inch 2011 2A NLA edition. All right, fam, that's it for this episode. Until next time, as always, take care of one another and peace.